Amber's Story is certainly a very powerful film. This was released in 2006. It's directed by Keoni Waxman, written by Richard Leder, and we have a cast including Elisabeth Röhm, Teryl Rothery, and various others. And we also have Sophie Hough as Amber Hagerman, and this is based on the true story of Amber Hagerman, who was abducted at the age of 9. And the abduction scene in this might be the most powerful I've seen in any film. It is heartbreaking. It felt painfully realistic. And I won't describe what happens. I won't go into too much detail, but it was intense. It was really horrible to watch because of how powerful it is. And I don't want to say what happens with the story in case you're not familiar. I certainly wasn't familiar going into it. But the story is partly about the abduction and also partly about her mother's efforts and other people's efforts to create a system so that people could be alerted quickly of a missing child. This is, of course, the Amber Alert. And I didn't know that this was based on or named after Amber Hagerman and based on one specific case. So I learned a lot in that regard. And it's a very emotional film. Obviously, the story of the abduction, very, very emotional. And then the story of creating the Amber Alert and the passion of various characters, particularly Amber's mother, in really desperately needing something in place like the Amber Alert. And there's one scene in particular. I guess it's not really a spoiler. I'll mention it at the end, but there was one scene that I thought was really, really moving and really powerful, and I'll discuss that at the end. Not really a spoiler, but just in case you don't want any other details. The story is very well handled. I don't know how accurate it is, both in terms of the abduction story and the creation of the Amber Alert, but based on my basic knowledge that I gained after Googling this, it seems to be based on truth quite heavily, but if anybody knows of anything that's maybe inaccurate or amended for the sake of the film, please feel free to let me know. In terms of the technical aspects, it's very well done. The camera work is great, the lighting, the music, all of that's very well done. The performances are brilliant. It's a very emotional film, and as I said, that scene near the beginning was just so powerful, painfully so, almost made it impossible to watch, but because it was so well done. A lot of emotions in this, and as I said, a lot of determination as well, which is really, really great to see. And it obviously does a really great job of showing the importance of the Amber Alert, and they did this by bringing in an additional story. I won't go into too much information there, but that made it all the more emotional. It's a very well written story. There's a lot of emotion in this. The performances are brilliant. Visually, it's satisfying. Great camera work and lighting. It's a powerful film. It's quite an educational film. And if it sounds like a story that you'd be interested in, then I'd be very happy to recommend it. And I will now talk about the scene very briefly that I alluded to just before. As I said, it's not really a spoiler for what happens, but just in case you didn't want any specific information, I've kept it until the end. And it's the scene where Amber's mother is pleading her case for the Amber Alert, or a system that would go on to be known as the Amber Alert. And she's asked, what are the statistics? And instead of answering with numbers, she starts to talk about Amber. And she starts to share information about her daughter's favourite things and activities that she enjoyed. And I don't know if that's exactly how it played out in real life, but I thought that was so powerful as a way of saying, these children are real people. These are not just statistics. Because it was basically a question of, well, is it going to be worth the time and effort? What do the statistics show? And instead of answering, Amber's mother made it very clear that in this case, statistics don't matter. Even if the Amber Alert saved one child, it would have been worth it. And children, nobody should be seen as statistics. So I thought that was it was a really powerful, moving moment. And there are little moments throughout that are similar in their strength. So I found that to be particularly worthy of note. But the whole film is very well done. Amber's story is a very moving, emotional story. Fascinating from an educational perspective with regards to the Amber Alert. And as I said, if it sounds like something for you, then I'm happy to recommend it.